this is Kimberlea, and Yoga Snack is our bite-sized podcast where Robbie and I serve up nourishing discussions on yoga, astrology, nourishment, and mindset.
We mix wisdom with personal experiences to serve up quick, insightful conversations that nourish your practice and add flavor to your daily life.
Ready for a quick bite of wisdom? Let's dig in.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Yoga Snack Podcast. This week, we're talking about the significance of the number 108. I know you just taught your 108 sun salutations yesterday for the new year, and I was telling somebody about that class, and they were asking me what exactly, why 108? Like what's the significance of 108? And I found I didn't have a really good answer. So I was hoping that you have done a little bit more, have a little bit more about why is it 108?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. People are always like, why 108? I'm like, well, you got to come to the class to find out. And what happened yesterday when I was teaching is I didn't actually share a lot of the reasons why, because it's a pretty vigorous practice. And I felt like I needed to be in that space of motivating people and connecting them to their breath versus telling them about the number. But I think it's fascinating. It can be like a wormhole though that you go down, or a rabbit hole, like you start to like look and you're like, everything's 108 or somehow. But the simplest place that I like to start is that on the mala, which is the prayer beads that you typically see people wear or meditate with. There's 108 beads on the mala. And so in a lot of traditions, the number 108 is significant. And if we dial it way back, ancient Indian culture, they were mathematicians. And so they were trying to calculate and look at things around like sacred geometry. Like how is this world happening? How is this existence happening? How is our universe forming itself? And so there's some spiritual connotation. But what I want to start with, because I think, Robbie, you'll appreciate this the most, is the astrology that goes with it. So there are 12 constellations and 9 arc segments. 12 times 9, 108. And in astrology, there are 12 houses and 9 planets. 12 times 9, 108.
Okay.
Let's see, 9 planets traveling through 12 signs constitutes the wholeness of existence. 12 times 9, 108. There are 27 lunar constellations spread over the 4 elements or the 4 directions. So 27 times 4, guess what? 108. And so I think that's really interesting. And then on more of like a scientific note, the distance between the Earth and the Moon is 108 times the diameter of the Moon. So I'll say that again. The distance between the Earth and the Moon, okay, so Earth, Moon, is that distance is equal to 108 times the diameter of the Moon. So yeah. And then, no, it gets even better, right? The distance between the Earth and the Sun, 108 times the diameter of the Sun.
Oh.
there's a preference in the way that our universe is formed. You
Yeah.
see, like that's what this number. So it's a sacred number.
Hmm.
It's a special number. It's an encoded number that, along with it, is carrying just a preference in the way that the universe is unfolded. So then, for us, we look at that too, because we're not separate than the universe, right? Like um, we have this makeup, and so energetically, it's said that there are 108 marma points in the body that converge to create the heart chakra. So energy lines, 108 energy lines in the body that converge to make the heart chakra. I think I'm covering up my microphone. um, so yeah, and then like you said earlier, the deities, Hindu deities, have 108 names.
That's
Let's
where I've
see how.
encountered that in astrology because um, Eastern astrology, there's something about saying the Sanskrit name of the planets 108 times, and it's like a way, each day is associated with a different planet. So each day you can go through and say the name of those planets 108 times, but like
Okay.
I never knew why it was 108 or anything like that.
Right.
A
No,
way
I
of like
know. It just,
tuning to that energy.
well, and to go off on a little bit of a tangent there, that's an advancement in studentship, is when you start to ask the questions. Like now you have new questions. Like you asked a question, now you have new questions. And you ask those new questions because you found yourself like in a new place. So when we do 108 sun salutations, it's like 108 embodied prayers. If you think of like the mala beads, like you're doing meditation and you are reciting a mantra 108 times, and you hold one bead and you say the mantra, and then you go to the next bead, and then you go to the next bead until you get all the way around to the 108th bead, and it stops because there's a guru bead, normally a larger bead at the bottom, and that signifies that round is complete. Yeah. So, and that's a japa, and so a japa is silent mantra. That's when you're reciting it in your mind silently. Um, okay, so let me say some more on the math perspective of it. That 108, or that's 9 dozen, because you're a baker, 9 dozen, is an abundant number and a semi-perfect number. It's also considered a Tetranacci number. It's also hyperfactorial. It is hyperfactorial of 3, since it is in the form of 11 times 22 times 25 times 33. In Euclidean space, the interior angles of regular pentagon measures 180 degrees, or 108 degrees. I'm going to say that again. In Euclidean space, pentagons, the interior angles measure 108 degrees.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And then, numerologically, you add numbers together. So the number 108, you add 1 plus 0 plus 8 equals 9. And 9 is the maximum. That's the end before things begin again. You can't like go beyond 9, because you start back at 10 and you have ones and zeros. And then you go to 11 and 12 and you get to 19, and then you're like, okay, well, then what? So 9 has a really important significance as well. Let's see. What else can I tell you? Okay, so the number 1 stands for God or source. or higher truth, whatever resonates with you. 0 stands as completeness or emptiness. It's a 0. Nothing there, right? And then the 8 is an infinity. So you have God, wholeness, and infinity.
I love that.
Isn't that beautiful?
It is.
Yeah. And then, 108 stands for wholeness, because when you add together the digits, they equal 9. So I said 1 plus 0 plus 8 equals 9. And then if you multiply 9 by anything, by adding the digits together, it's always 9. So anything divisible by 9. This is how, when I teach, I know that I am, I've completed a round of 9. So the number 45, 4 plus 5 is 9. It's divisible by 9. 27, 2 plus 7, 9.
You know,
8
I
plus 1, 81. 81. 8 plus 1, 9 is divisible. It's divisible. Yeah. And so that's how you learn your 9s in multiplication too. Like if you had a cool teacher.
I did not
Yeah.
have a cool teacher because I just learned recently that that's how they're teaching students these days. And I'm like, what? I've never heard that before.
And then it's all divisible by 3. So if you numerologically add numbers together, and it's you can divide them by 3, like it's so. And 3 it represents perfect balance, right? You think of a tripod stool, or something where there's support, because just 2, it's not enough. You have to have something, a third point, to create stability. And so the 108, the number 9, the number 3, all of them are intertangled, right? They're intermeshed because they are all one and the same. Let's see. Zen priests wear a juzu, Juzu. I think I'm saying that properly. And they wear it around their wrists, and that has 108 beads. So Zen priests also. In the Jain religion, 108 are the combined virtues. So there are 5 categories of holy ones. And that one's a little more vague. I don't know a lot about the Jain religion, but basically what it's saying is that there are holy ones that are grouped in these segments, and there are 12 in one group, 8 in one, 36, 25, and 27. And that all added together of holy ones is 108. It's said that the Atman, or the soul, goes through 108 stages on the journey of life. And the Lankavatra Sutra repeatedly refers to 108 steps many temples have in India. So in one of the ancient texts, it constantly talks about the 108 steps you take to get to the temple. And that's how they're constructed. In Tibetan Buddhism, it's believed that there are 108 sins. There are 108 paths to God. So when somebody's telling you that there's only one way to get there, you're telling bullshit. There's 107 others. Some Buddhists carve 108 small Buddhas on a walnut for luck. At the end of the year in Japan, a bell is chimed 108 times to finish the old year and to welcome the new one. Each ring represents 108 earthly temptations
Okay.
a person must overcome to achieve nirvana. And then the Sri Yantra, which is in yoga, it's a visible meditation that we can do. It's 9 interlocking triangles. And that's said to be like a map of the human body, but we're actually looking down on it, but it's our energetic body and we're looking down. And if you could grab it and pull it up this way, you would, for those of you, I pulled my hand upwards if you're listening to this, that you would see the human body in the way that it's formed unfold. So in that, there are 4 triangles that point up for Shiva, so the masculine. And then there are 5 that point down for Shakti, the feminine. And it's the union of the masculine and feminine energies. So there's 9 interlocking triangles that are laid over each other, like so. And that 4 of them point up and 5 of them point down. Yeah. So let's see. I already talked about the heart chakra. There's 108 gopis that are consorts of Krishna, Lord Krishna.
Okay.
There are 108 holy places that are devoted to Lord Vishnu in India. There are 108 Upanishads, which are an ancient text. And then there are 108 sacred water taps in Muktinath, Nepal. There are said to be 108 earthly desires in mortals, 108 lies that humans tell, and 108 human delusions or forms of ignorance.
Okay.
So not only are there 108 paths to God, there are 108 delusions. So what's what?
You gotta have the
Gotta
equal
be
balance.
careful.
Right.
Let's see. In Kriya yoga, the max number of reps allowed to practice in one sitting is 108. So we don't want to get too greedy, right? Like there's a limitation, and since 108 equals 9, there's the limitation. Some people are probably like, I'm not listening to this episode. There is so much going on here.
This episode is too much like math.
Right, stop talking. I will get to some fun pop culture ones in a second, though, that are kind of, so stay with me, you guys, stay with me. Let's see. Soon after the Buddha was born, it was said that 108 Brahmas were invited to the naming ceremony.
Okay.
108 represents the distance between the devotee and the God within. And if you think about that, like with the sun and the earth and the moon, there's like this, connection and sacred geometry in Sanskrit. So that's the language of yoga. And it's not a conversational language, right? It was meant for scripture. It was meant for chanting. It was meant for study. It wasn't meant as conversation. So in the Sanskrit alphabet, there are 54 letters, but each has a Shiva and a Shakti, a masculine and a feminine form. 54 times 2 is, say it with me. Let's see. In Homer's Odyssey, we'll go to literature. The number of suitors coveting Penelope, the wife of Odysseus, 108.
Okay.
There are 108 outlaws in the Chinese classic Water Margin Outlaws of the Marsh. There are 108 love sonnets in Astrophil and Stella, the first English sonnet sequenced by Sir Philip Sidney. I don't know who that is. Let's see. In Ayurveda, it said that there are 108 pressure points in the body where consciousness and flesh intersect to give life to the living being. So Ayurveda is the sister science to yoga. And what they're saying is that there's 108 pressure points where consciousness and flesh intersect where spirit and body come together and give life to the living being. There's 108.
Where mind and matter meet. 108.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I never. It's just this thing that has always come up. 108. So
Yeah.
this is
Yeah. Well, and I'll finish with the pop culture ones. I think they're kind of fun.
okay.
A baseball has 108 stitches.
No kidding.
There are 108 Uno cards in a deck.
What?
In India, 108 is the equivalent of 911.
Oh wow.
So instead of dialing 911, they dial 108.
Okay.
There are 108 forms of dance in the Indian tradition. Um, the sacred river, the Ganga in India, spans a longitude of 12 degrees and a latitude of 9 degrees.
Okay.
12 times 9 is 108. The first manned space flight was by Yuri Gagarin, a Soviet cosmonaut. The flight lasted 108 minutes. There's
I
a
wonder if that
tiny,
was by design.
right, a tiny coqui. It's the tiny coqui frog, which is on the island of Puerto Rico, has been measured of chirping 108 decibels.
Oh.
Prehistoric Stonehenge is 108. I'm going to say meters in diameter. I don't have the measurement there. So yeah, so lots of kind of interesting things. The Nepalese parliament has 108 seats in it. Like you can go down a rabbit hole a little bit, but
Yeah.
I think understanding that it's a sacred number is why we add that in the 108 sun salutations, because we're recognizing that there's something special. There's an organizing intelligence around that number 108 somehow. And whether it's a random accidental happenstance, like 108 stitches on a baseball, I'm sure they didn't mean to do that, but there's some sort of integrity that design gives that structure, right? And so when we do that in our practice, if we're creating a practice and it's like this embodied prayer, this embodied offering, it's really a powerful way to really start anything in your life. But I like to do it at the new year because it's also a heated practice. Like we're burning away. I kept saying, I'm like, what is so 2024 that you are not bringing with you? Like, what are you getting rid of? And then what happens is then you have this momentum that is really like this place of almost being like raw and completely open and fully alive when you're at the end of that process. And it's like, there's where the seeds are planted. That we did all of this sacred work, all of this sacred geometry, and now we're going to plant these seeds and see what comes. So that's that. I have to sign off here pretty quickly, but do you have any other questions about that? I know that
No,
was a lot of
that
information.
was fantastic. I know a lot. I know a lot more than I came in with. That's for sure.
Yeah, you can come back to this if you ever want to teach 108. We can come back and try to jot down some of my nonsense. Yeah, so over the years I've collected a lot of stuff, and yeah, it's just interesting. I'm always kind of on the lookout now because it's there's some sort of intelligent design
Sure.
um, that the universe preferences around creating things of structure and of substance. So we're that too, like we're that too. We're 108 Marma points, that converge and make our heart. So how beautiful is that? So, I hope everyone has a happy new year. Maybe we can talk about intentions the next time we pop on. I'd love to explore that, not just with you, but also with our listeners. So thank you, everyone.
Yes, thanks everybody. Thanks for listening, and hope to see you soon.
See you
next time.